Chapter 1906. Dmo Xian, who had always used his aura to make others speechless, was stuttering at this moment. Facing Yi Qing Luo, he naturally didn't dare to use his so-called aura to suppress her. He could only coax and spoil her, wishing that he could hold her in his palms and love her dearly. What Yi Qing Luo said had indeed poked out all the worries in his heart. It wasn't that he couldn't tell Yi Qing Luo about his identity. He just didn't wish for Yi Qing Luo to be troubled or make any changes because of his identity. What he was most afraid of. It was the last point that Yi Qing Luo mentioned. She would be afraid of his identity and leave him. Of course, he believed that Yi Qing Luo wouldn't be afraid of him because of his identity. But she would leave him. This wasn't to say that Yi Qing Luo was someone who would escape when she met with danger. But he understood Yi Qing Luo's character too well. If Yi Qing Luo knew his identity, she would definitely force herself to become stronger. She would leave him, and when she had grown to a level that was compatible with him, then she would appear again. Dmo Xian couldn't stand a day without Yi Qing Luo. But when he saw Yi Qing Luo's eyes turning red, staring at him with a reproachful gaze, Dmo Xian's heart was throbbing in pain. This was the first time he had such an uneasy feeling. This was the first time he had such a feeling of worry. Lil Luo, I don't mean it in that way, if you want to know, A burst of laughter interrupted Dmo Xian's anxious voice. He was stunned as he stopped his voice, looking at Yi Qing Luo's smiling face. The young lady's tensed face had softened at this moment. Her curved eyes, narrow and devilish, sparkling with a dazzling luster. She was smiling, bright and gorgeous, a beauty that could topple a city. Dmo Xian knew that he had been teased by Yi Qing Luo again. Yi Qing Luo laughed as she laid in his arms. Idiot, those words were indeed what I wanted to say. What words? Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he hadn't reacted in time. His reaction made Yi Qing Luo laugh even more joyfully. I know the current me, not knowing your identity, is much safer, and I won't let my imagination run wild because of this. She paused for a moment and her arms wrapped around his neck as she beamed and said, It doesn't matter if you don't say it. You just have to remember one sentence, no matter who you are my, Yi Qing Luo's man, so I will absolutely not leave you. Dmo Xian knew her. How could she not see through Dmo Xian's hidden worries? Since she had decided to be with Dmo Xian, she absolutely did not want any negative emotions or worries to appear between the two of them. She would never leave Dmo Xian. No matter when. Lil Luo, The young lady's sonorous and forceful words, each and every word, struck heavily on Dmo Xian's heart. The worry he had been feeling all this time vanished in an instant. He tightened his arms around the girl in his embrace. But Xian, when I am strong enough, you must personally tell me everything about yourself. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose overbearingly as she looked at his eyes seriously. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles as he spat out a word, all right. I still want to go to the place where you grew up, to understand everything about you. Her identity as a transmigrator, as well as the secret of the 21st century where she grew up, had already been told to him. By then, she wanted Dmo Xian to tell her everything, just like how she told him everything about herself today. Chapter 1907. Looking at the young lady's beautiful face, it was filled with a complacent and overbearing expression. Dmo Xian's heart seemed to have been filled by her smile. The lines on his face were so gentle that there was no trace of harshness or coldness. It was filled with pampering and love towards the young lady. He nodded and his voice was extremely gentle, all right. No matter if it was this lifetime or the next lifetime, he would never let go of her. She would belong to him forever and ever. So, until then, he would let Yi Qing Luo understand everything about him in detail. Including, on the bed. After getting Dmo Xian's reply, Yi Qing Luo leaned towards his face and planted a big fragrant kiss. Following that, she opened her arms and hugged his muscular body, acting coquettishly in his arms. "You're obedient, I'll forgive you for hiding it from me now." She pressed her face against his hard pecs again. She mumbled a few words indistinctly. "After all, before this, I had also concealed my identity as a transmigrated girl. If it wasn't for the fact that I had entered the godless array, I don't know how long I would have to hide it." "Same to you." The young lady's coquettish action made Dmo Xian's mood improve greatly. He rubbed the young lady's hair, his heart filled with tenderness. This was the lady whom he had his eyes on. Indeed, like what Yiqing Luo had guessed, approximately 1 hour later, large batches of monsters were born on the battle plain. The minute those monsters appeared, they started to tangle with the surrounding monsters. There were even quite a number of monsters, who directly found the 4 humans who were still on the battle plain. 2 pairs of passionate lovers, lost the place to talk about love. After the 4 of them killed the monsters which were blocking their way, they gathered together again. Yiqing Luo looked at Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin's tightly intertwined hands, as she gave an ambiguous smile. Yan Xiaoyi was so shy that her face turned crimson red, as she leaned her head towards Xiao Jin's shoulder. Xiao Jin chuckled as he touched the back of his head, with a face full of smiles. "Qing Luo, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. If it wasn't for you, I would definitely have done more wrong things." Yiqing Luo smiled with her eyes curved. "I won't." "Ah." Xiao Jin didn't react to Yiqing Luo's words. "Even if I didn't remind you, you wouldn't do anything stupid." Yiqing Luo revealed her pearly white teeth as she clenched her fists so hard that a cracking sound could be heard. "Because I will directly wake you up." Xiao Jin's neck shrunk back as he recalled that when Elder Jin was still around, Yiqing Luo had once said that she wanted to give him a good thrashing, and he instantly became terrified. "I've completely woken up now, this thrashing. I don't need to take it, right?" "That's hard to say." Yiqing Luo smiled insincerely as her eyes curved. Xiao Jin's face darkened, looking like he was furious but did not dare to speak. On the contrary, it was Yan Xiaoyi who felt heartache as she hurriedly pulled Xiao Jin behind her and said with a red face, "All right, Qing Luo, don't bully that silly goose. He's originally stupid, and after being bullied by you, he'll become even more stupid." Yiqing Luo couldn't help but teased. TSK, you haven't even married yet and you're already speaking up for Jin Z. AI, a married sister is like water that has been splashed out, Qing Luo." Yan Xiaoyi's cheeks turned even redder as she stared at Yiqing Luo resentfully. This adorable look made Yiqing Luo laugh even more happily. She was indeed a young lady in love. Her every action revealed a charming and adorable young lady's look. "All right, stop fooling around." Dmo Xian held Yiqing Luo in a timely manner. "If you continue fooling around, the surrounding monsters will all focus their attention on you." Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she surveyed the surroundings. As expected, she discovered that the thousands of monsters that had just been born were all looking towards their direction. Star. Chapter 1908. Yiqing Luo's bright eyes flashed as her face revealed a scared expression as she threw herself into Dmo Xian's arms. "Oh my, so scary," the pair of love-struck couples. The fake acting made Yan Xiaoyi's lips twitched uncontrollably. Even showing off their affection wasn't like this, right? Before today, she had been suppressing the feeling of liking Xiao Jin, suppressing the fact that after being abused by Xiao Jin, she still had to eat Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's various fancy dog food. Was it easy for her? Today she finally managed to pull Xiao Jin along to show off in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo just retaliated like this? Can't we just play around happily? Could they still be sisters happily? Yan Xiaoyi gritted her teeth in anger. But unfortunately, Dmo Xian was very cooperative as he stretched out his hand to hug Yiqing Luo and even patted her back gently. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." A certain love-struck couple was speechless. Could they also use dog food to retaliate? The thousands of monsters around them howled in unison. Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he swept his sleeves slightly. A burst of powerful profound energy covered the sky and earth as it enveloped the entire empty space. In an instant, the empty space regained its tranquility. Those thousands of monsters seemed as though they had never appeared before, not even a single speck of ashes could be seen. A certain love-struck couple was dumbstruck. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she circled around the man's neck and planted a kiss on his face. God of protection is the best, awesome, a certain love-struck couple. Damn it. They would stop showing off their affection in future, alright? The dog food and whatnot would be taken care of by the two of you, alright? Acting cute and showing off dog food was enough. Yiqing Luo restrained her actions as she looked at Dmo Xian seriously. Ah Xian, let's break the array. We've disappeared for a few days and that bunch of kids in devil class are probably going crazy from anxiety. Dmo Xian rubbed her hair as his expression was calm. Don't worry, even if we didn't make a move to break the array, that person should be letting us out. That person? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in puzzlement. You're talking about Shi Shanglan? No, it should be Godless Island's young master. Dmo Xian only smiled and didn't answer Yiqing Luo's question. Yiqing Luo automatically treated that person as the fake Shi Shanglan. Shi Shanglan spent a lot of effort to lure them into the soulless formation. How could he let them out so easily? She could tell that Shi Shanglan was pretending to be Shi Shanglan, using the identity of Yan Xiaoyi's fiancé to get close to her and the devil class. Their goal was definitely not simple. He had his ambitions. If he didn't get what he wanted, Shi Shanglan would not give up so easily. Would he really take the initiative to let them leave the soulless formation? Why don't we make a move first, to test the waters? Dmo Xian looked at the young lady's face that was deep in thought as his thin lips curved upwards. As soon as he finished speaking, his sleeves fluttered, and a shimmering purple light shot out. Bang! Boom! A few deafening explosions reverberated in the void. All of a sudden, the purple light flashed across the pitch-black sky like a bolt of lightning. The airflow was monstrous, as though the air in this plane was affected by this ray of profound light. They felt a little suffocated. Immediately following that, the battle plane shook violently. In the pitch-black void, it seemed as though a huge hole had been torn open. Like a malevolent bloody mouth, it opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp teeth. Star. Chapter 1909. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, that tear opened wider and wider. The entire battle plane seemed as though it was about to be torn apart, squeezing into other planes. In a split second, the tear had already opened up to a width of about 5 meters. Not only Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin were stunned. Yiqing Luo herself was also stunned. She looked at that tear in disbelief as she asked in a daze, Ah Xian, what is that? This plane, is it really going to collapse? Dmo Xian replied calmly, aren't you in a hurry to get out? This is the way to force him to open the entrance of the godless array. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, feeling a little lost. Xiao Jin explained by the side, I've once read about the godless array in Huangfu family's books. It said that the godless array is able to connect to all the planes in the world, and is a forbidden array which is not accepted by the world. Once one of the planes merges with another plane, it would break the balance between the various planes. The person who unleashed the array will be punished by the heavenly way, dying without a burial ground, never to be reincarnated. Yiqing Luo understood as she raised her brows and smiled, which means to say, Ah Xian is forcefully tearing the battle plane apart now. Once the planes near the battle plane merges with the battle plane, when the battle plane's monsters start to reproduce again, this group of monsters will also affect the nearby planes, causing chaos. At this time, the Shi Shanglan, who unleashed the array, will be punished by the heavenly way. Xiao Jin nodded, that's what I mean. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out, Xian, your method is really simple and crude, but I like it. Shi Shanglan dared to scheme against her. Then he would have to bear the consequences of their retaliation. Sure enough, when the tear gradually opened to about 12 meters or so, Yi Shiwen's eyes widened. Shi Shanglan finally couldn't bear the fear of being punished by the heavenly way. An intense ray of light shot down from the top of the battle plane. Following that, they saw that elegant young man standing at the center of the light, looking at them with a gloomy face. Stop. All of you stop right now. Shi Shanglan was no longer as gentle as before. His expression was ferocious as he pointed at them agitatedly and roared, "This is a formation that I created. If you dare to touch this formation, I will kill all of you in this formation." At this moment, he still wanted to scare Yiqing Luo and the others. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the ashen-faced man with a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. She leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms and smiled charmingly. "Really? Why don't we try and see who dies first?" Yiqing Luo. Shi Shanglan gritted his teeth and roared. Yiqing Luo picked her ears as her brows raised frivolously. "Are you relying on sound to make us die in the array?" Puqi, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin laughed out loud. Shi Shanglan's face was ashen. He could not imagine that his invincible godly array was actually unable to tame Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. The so-called heart attack formation I had not only failed to take down Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. On the contrary, it was taken down by Yiqing Luo. What's more, his father had already sent news over, ordering him to immediately open up the entrance of the array and let Yiqing Luo out safely. His father already knew about the matter of him using Godless Island's forbidden arts for himself. And his plan for the array had also failed. Not only had it failed, he had even offended the Imperial Palace, an overlord whom even his father was wary of. Star. Chapter 1910. His father would never let him off. Everything he had was ruined, he had painstakingly planned for such a long time. He had even tried to get close to that bunch of trash in Devil class. In the end, it had ended up in such a state. How could he take it lying down? How could he take it lying down? The ferocious face of Shi Shanglan was extremely terrifying. He gritted his teeth and glared at the huge hole that had been torn open. He said sternly, "Do you think that you can force me to let you out by using such a method? Don't even think about it." "Young master." Wu Sha's voice was heard faintly, "Island Master's orders cannot be violated. If you continue to wait, you will be punished by the heavens." "Shut up." Shi Shanglan berated, "Even if I die, I will drag them along with me." Using the godless array without permission had already violated the Godless Island's rules. Even if he really opened up the entrance and let Yiqing Luo and the rest out, his father would never let him off so easily. In any case, everything that he had been pursuing had been destroyed. It was completely destroyed. Death was all that awaited him. Then he would bring these people along with him to hell. "Young master, are you crazy?" When Wu Sha heard his young master's crazy words, he immediately rushed up and hugged Shi Shanglan's waist. "How could the island master let you die? You are the island master's favorite young master. If you die, are you going to hand over the position of young master to someone else?" Wu Sha's words made Shi Shanglan's struggling body suddenly stiffened. His eyes widened, filled with panic. He didn't want to. How could he bear to hand over the position of young master to someone else? In order to become the island master of Godless Island, he didn't hesitate to use up his own lifespan to forcibly display the godless array. How could he be willing to give it up to those sanctimonious hypocrites? Just as Shi Shanglan and Wu Sha were arguing endlessly, suddenly there was a vibration from that opening. Suddenly, he saw a figure walk in from the entrance. Yiqing Luo saw that person and smiled with raised brows. "Yu Ming, you're just in time. Are you waiting for the right time?" Yu Ming slowly walked to Yiqing Luo's side with a calm expression. Facing Yiqing Luo's ridicule, there was no reaction. He lowered his head, feeling depressed. No one knew if he was thinking or if he was annoyed that the search missile couldn't find what he wanted. It was because of Netherwoman's attitude that he was bitterly disappointed. These were not within the boundaries of Yiqing Luo's concern. Since he didn't say, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered. Of course, the prerequisite was that he wouldn't have any ideas about her again. This episode made Shi Shanglan realize the severity of the situation. Wu Sha was right. Even if he violated the rules of the Godless Island, as long as he was still the young master of the Godless Island, his father would not punish him severely. If he was really punished by the heavenly Tao because of the godless array, he would never be able to reincarnate. He would really lose more than he gained. Especially when he saw that someone had entered the battle plane through the tear. Shi Shanglan completely panicked. In the blink of an eye, the beam of light floating in the void covered the tear in the void. The entrance appeared before everyone's eyes. Dmo Xian seemed to be asking for credit as he lowered his head and stuck close to her ear as he whispered, "The entrance is out." Yiqing Luo decisively smoothed his hair and kissed his face. "My guardian god is the best." Dmo Xian was satisfied. The few of them slowly stepped out of that beam of light. It was as if they had entered the godless array for a tour, taking a stroll around. The group of people were unscathed. Just like that, he calmly walked past Shi Shanglan. Star. Chapter 1911. At the same time, the battle plane, which had already cracked open for nearly 20 meters, was gradually closing up. Following that, the godless array's entrance light was also completely shut at this moment. Shi Shanglan's entire body turned soft as he laid paralyzed on the ground. His eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Wu Sha immediately protected Shi Shanglan with a stern expression. However, after Yiqing Luo and the rest walked out, they didn't even give them half a glance as they directly walked past them and slowly walked out of the secret room. Just as they were nearing the secret room's exit, Dmo Xian halted his footsteps as he glanced sideways. That pair of brilliant peach blossom eyes revealed a piercingly cold glint. Wu Sha felt a chill running down his spine as his legs turned soft as he half knelt onto the ground. "Convey to your island lord, regarding today's matter, I will personally pay a visit to discuss with him in detail." Saying that, he hugged the young lady in his arms tightly as he walked out of the secret room without turning back, leaving behind two people who were half kneeling on the ground as they broke out in cold sweat. The place where Yiqing Luo and the rest were at was exactly the place where they entered the array. Yiqing Luo had already drawn out the map of the treasure-gathering pavilion in her mind. After a moment, she brought the few of them out of the secret room and returned to the extremely remote sundry room in the treasure-gathering pavilion. There were usually very few people who passed by the sundry room. However, when the few of them just came out from the sundry room, coincidentally, a team of 10 people who were dressed in the guard's uniform walked towards them. When that guard saw Yiqing Luo, his face instantly revealed an overjoyed expression as he shouted at the top of his voice, "Found it, found it. Madame Yiqing Luo has found it." This howl was heard by Yiqing Luo acutely. Numerous footsteps, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they surged towards their direction. Momentarily, the entire ground was filled with dust as it floated along with the wind. Immediately following that, she saw a huge wave of people, charging towards them in an imposing manner. Weren't the siblings Shiroa Yu and Shiroa Shi right at the front? Following closely behind was Tong Ziqing, Long Yunzhan and the rest. What situation was this? Yiqing Luo and the rest had a dazed expression. Shiroa Shi had already pounced into Yiqing Luo's arms as she hugged her tightly. "Sister. You're finally back." "Boo-hoo, I thought I lost you." Shiroa Shi sounded like she was about to cry. Her tearful and hazy appearance was very lovable. Yiqing Luo immediately stretched out her fingers and brushed away the tears on Shiroa Shi's face. "What's wrong?" As he spoke, Shiroa Yu, Long Yunzhan, and the others stepped forward. Their gazes started to size up Yiqing Luo. He heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that she had no external injuries. Shiroa Yu's face was filled with guilt. "It's all because I didn't manage the treasure-gathering pavilion well that you guys encountered danger. You've been missing for almost 3 days." Long Yunzhan's cold voice could not hide the slight tremble in it. Tong Ziqing's usually cold and elegant face couldn't help but tear up. "Where did you guys go? We've been looking for you for 3 days. Our brothers are dying of anxiety. Behind her, 10 over Devil Class's students all had red eyes as they looked at Yiqing Luo. He was clearly happily participating in the auction at the Jubao Pavilion. He had not expected that when the guests arrived, they saw Yan Xiaoyi being kidnapped, and following that, Xiao Jin had disappeared. Following that, there was news of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian disappearing from the Jubao Pavilion. They instantly got anxious. Yan Xiaoyi was kidnapped in front of the guests. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian must have gone to save Yan Xiaoyi. Chapter 1912. The siblings Shiruoyu and Shiruoshi blamed themselves endlessly. They increased the number of guards to search for Yiqing Luo and the others. Devil Class's students also joined the search team. Finally, found them. Yiqing Luo gently touched Shiruoshi's head. Shiruoshi sniffled and squirmed out of Yiqing Luo's arms, pouncing into her own brother's arms. She knew that she wasn't the only one who was worried about Yiqing Luo. Now that she had confirmed her sister's safety, she was assured. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiruoshi's actions as she laughed helplessly. This lass was really so obedient that it made one dote on her. She smiled gently, raised her eyes, and fixed her gaze in front of her. In front of her were faces filled with worry. Her charming eyes blinked as it sparkled with heartache and touched. Her eyelashes were also wet as she tried her best to curl her lips, blossoming into a bright smile as she stretched out her hand towards them. Brothers, we're back. Her clear and sweet voice was filled with deep emotion. That pair of crystal bright eyes, faintly rippled with tears. Devil Class's students finally couldn't hold it in. They swarmed forward as they surrounded Yiqing Luo and the others in groups. They were worried for Yiqing Luo and the others for 2 days. They were finally assured. Luckily, everyone was fine. Long Yunzhan stood by the side, his azure blue eyes, looking at the excited crowd. His brows couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. After the laughter, someone reacted, "Right, we have to inform the other brothers immediately. They are still trying to find out about your news in South Continent." That person was preparing to leave anxiously when he was stopped by Shiruoyu. "Something happened to you in Treasure Gathering Pavilion. As one of the representatives of Treasure Gathering Pavilion, I should bear all the responsibility. Tonight I will set up a banquet at Drifting Fragrance Restaurant. Take it as my apology to Devil Class's students." That Devil Class student looked towards Yiqing Luo. On seeing Yiqing Luo nodding, he swiftly scuttled out of Treasure Gathering Pavilion. The entire storeroom started to bustle with noise and excitement. Devil Class's students were chattering incessantly, asking where Yiqing Luo had been these 2 days. Just as they were in the midst of the joyous noise, suddenly a surprised voice was heard, "Xiao Yi! Xiao Yi!" Everyone was startled and looked in the direction of the voice. Yan Xiaoyi falls into Xiao Jin's arms. Under the sunlight, her delicate face was strangely pale, like a fragile doll. "What's going on?" Yiqing Luo frowned as she pushed the crowd aside and walked over. Xiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi helplessly, his face pale. "I don't know. She just suddenly. Let me take a look first." Baiming Lulu squeezed through the crowd and immediately took Yan Xiaoyi's pulse. After checking his pulse for a long time, Baiming Lulu's face sank and became extremely ugly. Xiao Ji nervously tightened his arms. What's going on? Is Xiao Yi alright? She was poisoned. Baiming Lulu's expression was grave as she released Yiqing Luo's hand and stood up. "This poison is too complicated. I have no way to cure it." "You can't do anything? Lulu, you're the descendant of a divine doctor family. You can't have no way." Qing Luo. Xiao Jin's pupils constricted, and when he heard Baiming Lulu's words, his expression instantly turned ugly, as though he had lost everything. He instinctively sought help from Yiqing Luo. As long as Yiqing Luo was around, she would absolutely not let anything happen to Yan Xiaoyi. "Jin Zi, calm down, nothing will happen to Xiao Yi." Yiqing Luo comforted him. Following that, she looked towards the other brothers. "Is Ghost Doctor Master still in South Continent?" Star. Chapter 1913. The students were also shocked by Yan Xiaoyi's sudden collapse. Tong Ziqing was the first to react. I'll go to the sky room to look for Lord Ghost Doctor. I'll go. Yiqing Luo took a look at Yan Xiaoyi's pale face and suddenly recalled the blood which she had come into contact with before she entered the godless array. The blood was also tainted with the poison of the godless island. It was likely that Yan Xiaoyi had already been poisoned since then. It was just that he was afraid that Xiao Jin would be worried, so he suppressed it and did not reveal it. And when she rushed to the battle dimension, she was wholeheartedly thinking about solving their relationship problems, so she didn't notice Yan Xiaoyi's physical problems. The poison that Yan Xiaoyi was inflicted with should be the ultimate poison of Godless Island. Moreover, the poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body and the poison in Xiao Jin's body were on a completely different level. The 100 dispelling pill that she had refined had cured the poison in Xiao Jin's body, but had not been able to clear the poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body. Looks like this poison can only be cured by Master Ghost Doctor. Yiqing Luo turned her head towards Shi Ruoyu, can I trouble you to prepare a room for Xiao Yi? I'll bring Master Ghost Doctor over immediately. As she finished speaking, she summoned Shi Ju and leaped onto Shi Ju's back before shouting, let's go. Shi Ju turned into a black afterimage, vanishing before everyone's eyes. Shi Ju's speed was extremely fast. In just a short moment, he had already arrived at the first room. Yiqing Luo's speed was much faster than the devil-class students who had rushed back to report. And because of this, the few devil-class students who were surrounding the sky room number 1, as well as the students and elders from the various academies, all saw a huge black panther beast descending from the sky. The woman in red was sitting on the leopard. They were all shocked. These 2 days, Yan Xiaoyi had been kidnapped at Jubao Pavilion, and Xiao Jin had disappeared soon after. After that, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian went searching for Yan Xiaoyi, but they didn't manage to catch a glimpse of them. Almost the entire South Billow continent was turning upside down in search of them. Madame Qing Luo. It's Madame Qing Luo. The students of the devil class stepped forward to welcome them. Before he could express his joy, he heard Yiqing Luo asking anxiously, where's Ghost Doctor Master? Is Madame Qing Luo hurt? Lord Ghost Doctor is refining medicine in the medicine refining room. Madame Qing Luo, you. Before they could finish their words. Suddenly, a hurricane appeared in front of him, blowing sand into his face. They hurriedly raised their arms to cover their faces. But when the hurricane subsided, there was no sign of Yiqing Luo at all. The students were all stunned as they recalled Yiqing Luo's earlier question. Could it be that someone was injured? Continue treating the Ghost Doctor. On the other side, Yiqing Luo hurriedly rushed towards the main courtyard's alchemy room. Outside the alchemy room, there were more than 30 alchemy apprentices in cyan robes. The vice principal was standing at the side, talking to a gloomy-looking old man about something. It seemed like they were having a quarrel. The huge black leopard attracted everyone's attention. Vice President's gaze fell from the leopard beast onto Yiqing Luo. His eyes were filled with joy as he said, Little Luo. You're finally back. Yiqing Luo leapt down from Xian's back as she took quick steps towards Vice President, stopping him from continuing with the conventional greetings. Vice President, where is my master? I need to talk to him about something urgent. Before the Vice President could say anything, the gloomy-looking old man by the side gave her an extremely disdainful look. You're that Ghost Doctor's disciple? Your aptitude isn't that great. I thought this so-called Ghost Doctor's foresight was really good. That weird tone made Yiqing Luo's slender brows suddenly creased. Star. Chapter 1914. Vice President saw the change in Yiqing Luo's expression and immediately laughed dryly as he pulled the elderly man away. Following that, he put on a smile as he looked at Yiqing Luo. Ghost Doctor is in the pill refining room and has already been here for an entire day. Yiqing Luo nodded her head and directly walked towards the direction of the pill refining room. The Vice Dean immediately stopped her. Girl, even though you're the Ghost Doctor's disciple, but, before the Ghost Doctor went in, he specifically warned us that no one is allowed to go in and disturb him while he's refining pills." He paused and revealed a troubled look. "You should also know your master's personality." "I know." Yiqing Luo pushed away the vice president's hand. "Xiao Yi is injured." Vice President was stunned as he recalled that the reason why Yiqing Luo had disappeared for the past 2 days was to look for the kidnapped Yan Xiao Yi. He retracted his hand and didn't stop her. "Don't think that just because you're that ghost doctor's disciple, you can enter the medicine refining room. That ghost doctor's style is really big. In someone else's territory, she dares to chase away the owner and forcibly occupy the medicine refining room. This is the first time I've seen such a shameless medicine master." The old man next to him spoke in a strange tone. His face was full of contempt and disdain. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused. She glanced sideways at the old man coldly and the corners of her lips curled into a cold smile. An apothecary at the level of a medicine ancestor? When the old man heard this, a smug look appeared on his face. "You've heard of this old man's name?" "That's right, I am the only master apothecary at the medicine grandmaster level in the headquarters. You can call me Master Yao Lao." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as her eyes were filled with ridicule. "What a coincidence, my master is also an elder-level alchemist." Yao Lao was slightly stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's chilly voice cleared his doubts. "Unfortunately, in a situation where both of us are at the same level, you are not even comparable to a single finger of my master. To think that you have the title of a medicinal grandmaster, it's just an empty shell." Leaving this sentence behind, Yiqing Luo headed towards the direction of the pill refining room without even turning her head back. No matter how Yao Lao cursed at her from behind, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with him. He didn't know how long the poison in Xiao Yi's body would last. She did not have the time to waste with Yao Lao here. If it wasn't for Yao Lao constantly insulting his master ghost doctor, she didn't even want to pay attention to it. Yao Lao took some time before he understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. His old face instantly turned steely green as he clenched his teeth and rolled up his sleeves, wanting to settle the score with Yiqing Luo. Vice President stopped Yao Lao, but he had no choice but to admit Yiqing Luo's words. They were both medicine grandmasters. However, the ghost doctor's name had spread far and wide. She was even called the Ghost Hand Doctor. It could be said that if it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo had mentioned that Ghost Doctor was merely an elder level, he probably thought that the Ghost Doctor was either a medicine emperor or a medicine immortal. Looking at the medicine faction's alchemists, whom they had always been proud of, their faces were twisted with jealousy. The vice president sighed helplessly. Yiqing Luo walked directly into the pill refining room without any restraint. The surrounding alchemists looked at each other in dismay, but due to Yiqing Luo's imposing manner, they didn't dare to stop her. The ghost doctor stayed in the medicine refining room for a day. At least 3 people had been forcefully thrown out by the ghost doctor. This young lady actually dared to barge in? The junior alchemists were all guessing when Yiqing Luo would be thrown out by that emotionally unstable ghost doctor. The junior alchemists specially stood on the left and right sides, leaving an empty space in front of the door. But after waiting for some time, that tightly shut door didn't open at all. Star. Chapter 1915. The pill refinement room was filled with smoke. A huge cauldron floated in midair, and a raging fire burned below it. A white-robed figure with disheveled hair stood under the cauldron. Yiqing Luo took a look at the burning cauldron as she pursed her pink lips. "Ghost Doctor Master." The ghost doctor didn't seem to hear her voice, and didn't turn around. At this time, the concoction of the elixir had already reached the latter part. With the ghost doctor's abilities, there was no need for her to guard the cauldron at all times. Ghost Doctor ignored her, and Yiqing Luo knew that he was annoyed with her. She had only just recovered, yet she had already put herself in danger. Yiqing Luo's tone softened as she slowly walked to Ghost Doctor's side, raising her head together with him as she looked at the cultivation furnace. "Master Ghost Doctor, the people from Godless Island have attacked me." Yiqing Luo explained the reason for her disappearance for 2 days. The Ghost Doctor's body stiffened. Yiqing Luo stood very close to him and could feel the change in Ghost Doctor's breathing. He heard her voice. Yiqing Luo's hand slowly hugged his arm, as her voice was a little soft. Ghost Doctor Master, I've been with Ah Xian for the past 2 days, not leaving him by even half a step. I also didn't rely on the fact that you've treated all my injuries, to act recklessly and recklessly. The Ghost Doctor's body stiffened, as though he was extremely unnatural and not used to Yiqing Luo's nearness. Master Ghost Doctor, look at how cute and adorable I am trying to please you. Can you help me, please? Yiqing Luo hugged Ghost Doctor's arm and started shaking it. The Ghost Doctor truly doted on her. She also believed that the Ghost Doctor would not ignore the students of Devil class. Otherwise, with the Ghost Doctor's personality, he would have long wished to return to the West Continent, return to his own medicine refining room, and live his life of refining medicine. How could he possibly remain on the South Waves continent? He stayed behind because he wasn't sure if the missing Yiqing Luo and the others had met with any danger. When Yiqing Luo and the others returned, they could treat them at the first instance. Yiqing Luo had long seen through Ghost Doctor's cold on the outside but warm on the inside. As expected, towards Yiqing Luo's act of acting cute, Ghost Doctor ultimately couldn't stand it. Under Yiqing Luo's reluctance, she was dragged out of the pill refining room. The door opened. Plop 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 sounds could be heard. The 30 or so young alchemists were lying on the ground. On seeing that it wasn't only Yiqing Luo who walked out, Ghost Doctor was with her. The junior medicine masters were so scared that they trembled and knelt on the ground. Lord Ghost Doctor. They had thought that eavesdropping and peeking at the Ghost Doctor refining medicine would definitely anger the Ghost Doctor, who had a violent temper and would throw people out of the refining room at the slightest provocation. In the past, when they peeped at Yao Lao refining medicine, they would be punished by Yao Lao when they were discovered. However, the Ghost Doctor didn't even look at them. He walked straight past them and into the front yard. Just as the junior apothecaries were feeling extremely perturbed, they saw the beautiful girl beside the Ghost Doctor reveal a devastatingly beautiful smile at them. There are still pills refined by my master in the medicine refinement room. Take a good look. Once the refinement is successful, these pills will be a gift from my master to you young alchemists. After saying that, he turned his head and bade farewell to the Vice Dean, then pulled the Ghost Doctor onto Shiju's back and swaggered off. The eyes of the young alchemists lit up. A gift from the Ghost Doctor? Not only did the Ghost Doctor not punish them, he even gave them a gift. The junior apothecaries flocked as they rushed into the pill refining room. Chapter 1916. Yao Lao's undignified look made Vice President frown slightly. Yao Lao even rolled up his sleeves and was about to rush into the pill refining room to chase those junior alchemists out. Vice President had no choice but to stop Yao Lao's extreme actions. How could he not tell that Yiqing Luo was intentionally pulling aggro for Yao Lao? Yao Lao was the only grandmaster in the main courtyard's pill refining room. These junior alchemists were under his control. Yiqing Luo's actions earlier had completely succeeded in making those junior alchemists extremely dissatisfied with Yao Lao. If Yao Lao were to go in and chase them out at this moment, and stop them from taking Ghost Doctor's gift, it would probably cause those young junior alchemists to have a strong backlash. By then, Yao Lao would really lose the hearts of those junior alchemists. However, Vice President couldn't blame Yiqing Luo for doing this. After all, Yao Lao's actions today indeed didn't seem like something a Grandmaster Alchemist should do. He sighed softly and tried to persuade Yao Lao in every possible way before he managed to persuade him. Yiqing Luo was on Shiju's back as she explained Yan Xiaoyi's current symptoms and her guess towards the poison. Hence when they reached Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Ghost Doctor went directly to Yan Xiaoyi's room to take her pulse. Luckily, after Yan Xiaoyi was poisoned, she had swallowed Yiqing Luo's 100 dispelling pill, which suppressed a portion of the poison. Following that, a portion of the poison was removed by a mysterious force. Now the remaining poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body wasn't much. Mentioning that mysterious force, Yiqing Luo subconsciously took a look at Xiao Jin. The force which was able to remove a portion of the poison should be that golden ray which was brought out when Xiao Jin released his golden eye's energy. Moreover, they were now in Treasure Gathering Pavilion. What kind of place was Treasure Gathering Pavilion? They had all kinds of rare and precious medicinal herbs. With Ghost Doctor's help, there were all kinds of medicinal herbs. The poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body wasn't considered as serious. Hearing this news, everyone in Devil class heaved a sigh of relief as their suspenseful hearts were all put down. Taking a look at Ghost Doctor who was performing acupuncture, Yiqing Luo stood up and quietly dispersed the surrounding students. 50 over people left the room. Yiqing Luo took a look at Shi Ruoyu and smiled lightly. Tonight Ruoyu will be booking a banquet at Floating Fragrance Restaurant, everyone don't forget. The Ghost Doctor had personally said that Yan Xiaoyi was fine. Yiqing Luo also didn't wish for all the students to be like her, constantly tensed up in emotions. These 2 days, the 4 of them had gone missing, and then they were busy taking care of Yan Xiaoyi. It was time to relax. Sure enough, when he heard that there was a feast to eat tonight, he was startled. The eyes of the young student sparkled with excitement. Yiqing Luo asked them to go down first to tidy herself up. Piao Xiang Restaurant was the largest restaurant in Gufeng City. If they wanted to book a restaurant for a meal, even if they didn't have to be extravagant, they had to at least be dressed neatly. The students cheered and dispersed to prepare to bathe, change their clothes, and wait for the feast. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with smiles as she sent the students off with her eyes before she looked at Shi Ruoyu with a light smile. Ruoyu, I have something to discuss with you, is it convenient? Shi Ruoyu seemed to have guessed that Yiqing Luo would look for him for a private talk as he nodded slightly. I've already prepared the pantry, you can go over any time. Yiqing Luo smiled as she held Dmo Xian's hand and followed behind Shi Ruoyu, heading towards the direction of the tea room. Yiqing Luo looked at the surroundings as she suppressed her voice. Has Yuming left? Ever since they came out from the sundry room, Yuming had automatically disappeared. Yiqing Luo only agreed to bring him back to Nirvana realm. As for what Yuming wanted to do after that, Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to bother. Only, Yuming had left silently. Could it be that he was plotting something in the dark? Star. Chapter 1917. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly and saw the worry on her face as he consoled her calmly. He won't be able to stir up any big waves, moreover. Pausing for a moment, Dmo Xian seemed to be organizing his words. After some time, he opened his mouth. He is a heartbroken person. Perhaps not long later, he will come back and look for you. Yiqing Luo recalled the scene of Yuming and Yunu's conversation in the mirror. Indeed, it was heartbreaking. With Dmo Xian's words, she didn't think any further as her vision fell onto Shi Ruoyu who was leading the way. The 3 of them went to the pantry. The 2 of them sat down and Shi Ruoyu sat opposite them. I won't beat around the bush. Ruoyu, can you tell me, which powerhouse is the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion? Yiqing Luo asked directly. No matter how tactful she was. Based on Shi Ruoyu's intelligence, he must have guessed that she would ask this question. Indeed, Shi Ruoyu's face didn't reveal any astonished expression, as though it was within his expectations. His handsome face revealed a tinge of guilt. As the eldest young master of the Shi family, I can't divulge any secrets of Treasure Gathering Pavilion. Yiqing Luo was already mentally prepared for this. After all, Treasure Gathering Pavilion was the #1 auction house in the South Continent. As the Shi family's powerhouse on the surface, Shi family could rest assured to hand over the auction house's matters to a 17 or 18-year-old Shi Ruoyu to handle. This was enough to prove Shi Ruoyu's ability and means. Shi Ruoyu wasn't that kind of hot-blooded youngster. He wouldn't do anything for his brothers or for the sake of friendship. Naturally, he wouldn't reveal the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion. As for the powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yiqing Luo already had an answer in her heart. But she wanted to confirm one last time. After all, this concerned her and her brother's safety. Looking at Yiqing Luo's worried expression, Shi Ruoyu clenched his fists and continued, but as brothers, I can give you some simple hints. Yi Qing Luo suddenly raised her eyes and fixed her gaze on Shi Ruoyu, then. I'll ask my guess, you only need to nod or shake your head, how about that? Shi Ruoyu smiled as he nodded. Yi Qing Luoyu directly asked her initial suspicion, the powerhouse behind treasure-gathering pavilion, is she Shanglan? Shi Ruoyu was stunned and nodded after a while. As though he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to be able to guess it accurately. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes and asked again, moreover, that Shi Shanglan is actually not the real Shi family's young master. He's the young master of Godless Island. When Yi Qing Luo's words landed, Shi Ruoyu stood up with a thump. The force was so great that even the chair he was sitting on was knocked over. He was totally unaware as his eyes opened wide, looking at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. After all, a child was still a child. No matter how smart he was. No matter how capable he was. After all, he had experienced too little. Shi Ruoyu's expression confirmed that Yi Qing Luo's guess was completely correct. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as she met Shi Ruoyu's eyes without blinking. Her voice was suppressed as it revealed a trace of bewitchment, which is to say, the powerhouse behind treasure-gathering pavilion is Godless Island. Yan Xiaoyi could be kidnapped in front of everyone in Jubao Pavilion. Later, the guests found out and informed Shi Ruoyu. But during the kidnapping, why didn't anyone inform Shi Ruoyu? There was only one explanation. Even if someone kidnapped Yan Xiaoyi in front of everyone, in the eyes of outsiders, it didn't look like a kidnapping. Star. Chapter 1918. But later on, after Yan Xiaoyi, Yi Qing Luo and the other two disappeared from treasure-gathering pavilion. Those who saw Yan Xiaoyi being taken away then realized that it was a kidnapping. After that, the place where Yan Xiaoyi was imprisoned was the secret chamber of the Jubao Pavilion. There was another hidden room inside the hidden room. Furthermore, a soulless spirit formation had already been set up there. The Godless Array formation was the forbidden array formation of the Godless Island. If he wanted to successfully set up the formation, he would need to prepare at least 30 to 50 days in advance. He was someone who could move freely through the treasure-gathering pavilion, set up a formation, and knew everything about the treasure-gathering pavilion like the back of his hand. Other than the treasure-gathering pavilion, who else could it be? On the surface, there was the Shi family and the Chu family. In that case, the young island master of Godless Island must be the force behind Jubao Pavilion. If it was Godless Island. The rumor that the power behind Jubao Pavilion was so powerful that no one could defeat it was also true. Shi Ruoyu put his hands on the table, his face full of surprise and disbelief. How? How did you know? Qing Luo, how did you guess it? The shock and astonishment in the youth's eyes were pure. Yi Qing Luo stood up as she smiled lightly, because we've been trapped in the Godless Array for the past few days, so I'm more or less clear about the matters regarding the Godless Island. Godless Array? Shi Ruoyu's body stiffened. Godless Island actually used such a vicious array to deal with you? Godless Island. Ruoyu. Yi Qing Luo suddenly turned serious as she called out his name. Shi Ruoyu was still in a trance. You don't have to interfere in this matter. Yi Qing Luo looked straight into Shi Ruoyu's eyes. Godless Island is a force outside of Nirvana realm. Anyone who walks out from the island is much more powerful than us. As the future head of the Shi family, you cannot have any conflict with Godless Island. To Shi Ruoyu, she was merely his benefactor who had saved his life in the flame lair. Shi Ruoyu was not willing to risk his life for her and abandon his family. What's more, the Shi family only had two descendants, him and Shi Ruoshi. Yi Qing Luo liked this pair of siblings from the Shi family from the bottom of her heart. She naturally did not wish for the two of them to offend the Godless Island because of her and become the target of the Godless Island. But Shi Ruoyu knew that Yi Qing Luo's suggestion to the Shi family was the best choice. But Yi Qing Luo was his benefactor. And Shi Ruoshi liked Yi Qing Luo so much. If he knew that Godless Island wanted to deal with Yi Qing Luo, he still pretended that nothing had happened and continued to collaborate with Godless Island to manage Treasure Pavilion. Wasn't that too inhumane? As if she could see through Shi Ruoyu's thoughts, Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head. I'm already very happy that you're worried for me. Don't think too much about it. Even if you interfere now, it won't hurt Godless Island at all. On the contrary, it will affect the Shi family. You just need to control the power of the treasure-gathering pavilion in your hands. After that, we'll think of a way to screw over the Godless Island. A sly and evil smile appeared on her face. A scheming look flashed in his eyes. She laughed lightly. It's not a bad choice to use money to pay for the harm that you've caused me. Shi Ruoyu pursed his lips as he clenched his fists tightly and sat back heavily on the chair. He knew that what Yiqing Luo said made sense. He was interfering now to stand up for Yiqing Luo. The final result might be that Godless Island would be unscathed. Chapter 1919. Shi Ruoyu finally lowered his head and listened to Yiqing Luo's suggestion. All along, he thought that he was considered young and promising. At least he could rely on his own ability to protect the people he wanted to protect. But in the flame nest, he felt his own insignificance and understood the logic that there was always someone better out there. But now, listening to Yiqing Luo's words, Shi Ruoyu increasingly felt that his ability was not as big as what he had imagined. He pursed his lips tightly. A flame in his heart was burning at this moment. After comforting Shi Ruoyu, Yiqing Luo brought Dmo Xian and left the tea room. On the way to Yan Xiaoyi's room, Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the calm Dmo Xian. Xian, what do you think Godless Island's motive is? Godless Island was a plane outside of Nirvana Realm. Its overall ability was above Nirvana Realm. But they kept coming to the lower realm, and their target was obviously her. The last time when she just entered Heavenly Academy, she met Wu Sansha who tried to snatch the profound Phoenix Ring. This time, they made use of Yan Xiaoyi to set her up, luring her into the godless array. Could it be? He simply wanted her to be attacked by the Formation I and the Soulless Formation and lose her heart and soul? No. She remembered, the array I once said that it wasn't a coincidence that she returned to the 21st century in the godless array. But someone expended their own power to send her to this plane. Which meant, that person was from Godless Island. Then, what role did Yu Ming play in this? Or in other words, Godless Island sent her to the 21st century, so that Yu Ming could use her Yi family's bloodline to enter the ancestor's tomb? Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but feel chills down her spine. This also meant that Godless Island had long known of her identity as a transmigrator. Moreover, she had something that the Godless Island wanted. Or in other words, Godless Island wanted the Yi family's ancestor's item. The more she thought about it, the more terrifying it was. Just as Yiqing Luo was shivering and hugging her own arms, her body had been enveloped in a circle of warmth. The boiling hot chest scorched her delicate body. A warm big palm pressed down on her head. Little Luo, no matter what Godless Island thinks, I will not let Godless Island have any chance to hurt you. A voice that was as mellow as fine wine gently rang in his ears, easily soothing the anxiety and uneasiness in Yiqing Luo's heart. His hands encircled her waist. His kiss landed on the space between her eyebrows. Godless Island caused too much of a commotion this time. They won't do anything for a while. I won't interfere too much with the matters of the lower domain. I will arrange for the Emperor Palace's disciples to investigate the Godless Island. Yes. Yiqing Luo responded as her arms wrapped around his waist, burying her head in his arms. Ah Xian, I will definitely work hard to become stronger. So strong that even Godless Island doesn't dare to have any ideas on me. I know you don't want me to interfere too much with you. You need the opportunity to grow independently. Dmo Xian said warmly, so, I will not stop your growth. You only need to remember, no matter what, I will always be by your side. My protector, my strong backing. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile as she tiptoed and planted a kiss on his thin lips. I will not let you down. Her current ability was not enough for her to become enemies with Godless Island. Just like what she advised Shiruoyu. Chapter 1920. She would go to the Godless Island one day. Furthermore, by then, she would let Godless Island know that if anyone dared to touch her, Yiqing Luo, or her brothers, there would be consequences. He didn't want to turn that Godless Island into a wasteland. Her name was not Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the young girl, his eyes filled with battle intent, blazing with fire. He couldn't help but curl his thin lips and smile in his eyes. It was indeed his little Luo heir. He would not be impulsive. If Lil Luo had to find trouble with Godless Island because of this, or if he wanted Godless Island to give him an explanation, even if he didn't agree with it, he would also follow Lil Luo's wishes. Even if he interfered in the matters of the lower realm, he would not hesitate. Luckily, his Lil Luo knew how to recognize her own strength. His forbearance now was not cowardice, but wisdom. This would only strengthen Yiqing Luo's inner heart. When he had enough strength, he gave his opponent a fatal blow. Taking action personally was the real revenge. Night, floating fragrance restaurant. The spacious restaurant seemed to be extremely empty. However, it did not affect the liveliness of the restaurant. Devil classes students, as well as those guards who had put in effort to search for Yiqing Luo and the others for the past 2 days, were seated at 10 over tables. Amidst the bustle, the dean, the vice dean, and a few other deans who had yet to leave the South Wave continent also came to ask for wine. The news that Shiruoyu had booked the entire First Fragrance restaurant and was inviting the devil class students to a banquet. It had almost spread throughout the entire Valley Wind City. Those who wanted to build a relationship with the devil class naturally took this opportunity to rush over to fawn on them. Therefore, the group of people followed behind the dean and vice dean. Among the few Academy's directors, Yiqing Luo also saw Heavenly Academy's director, as well as the 2 elders Yunxiang and Yunduan. Yiqing Luo's matters, as well as the Blazing Flame Nest's matters were all related to the Heavenly Academy. The people from the Heavenly Academy were still in the South Continent and could not return to the West Continent. Looking at the Heavenly Dean and Yunxiang, the light in his eyes was extremely complicated, filled with jealousy and disdain. On the other hand, Yunduan looked at the people coming and going in the restaurant with a satisfied smile on his face. Yiqing Luo was able to have such status and prestige today. As the elders of the Heavenly Academy, they should feel proud. Even if the Heavenly Academy had 2 students who colluded with the dark forces. But Yiqing Luo's limelight had completely suppressed this matter. However, the Heavenly Dean and Yunxiang were not happy at all. The dark forces were completely annihilated. This also meant that he would lose the protection of the dark forces. He had spent a lot of energy in the dark world and had to bow down to them. But now, he didn't get any benefits. All these were Yiqing Luo's fault. How could the dean be happy about this? Yunxiang couldn't stand Yiqing Luo's complacent face. Recalling that he had once caused quite a bit of trouble for Yiqing Luo in the academy. Now that Yiqing Luo had gained power, wouldn't she want to take revenge on him? Moreover, Shiruoyu was hosting a banquet today. Not a single devil class student actually invited them. Where would they put their faces? However, no matter how much resentment he felt in his heart, they had to put on a smile and shamelessly come over. Because, the ultimate goal of this student exchange. But for the sake of the best academy. There was Yiqing Luo in the Heavenly Academy. There was an 80% possibility that this year's Best Academy would fall into the hands of the Heavenly Academy. For the title of Best Academy. Chapter 1921. However, the entire restaurant was extremely lively. Countless of people surrounded the devil class students, and even the principal and vice principal were squeezed into the crowd. The Heavenly Dean couldn't even squeeze through. All right, stop staring. Yunduan caressed his white beard. Find a corner and sit first. Yunxiang retracted his gaze and his old face showed some uneasiness and anger. In any case, You're still a student of the Heavenly Academy. Just a little bit of fame and you even threw us to the back of your mind. The Heavenly Dean restrained the ruthlessness in his eyes, followed behind Yin Duan, and found a table in the corner to sit down. There were at least 200 people in the restaurant. They could not show even the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. Otherwise, if he was caught by someone with ulterior motives, this would cause quite a bit of trouble. After sitting down, Yin Duan raised his teacup and glanced at Yun Xiang leisurely. She relied on her own abilities to lead the students of the devil class and gain everyone's respect. It has nothing to do with us. She is now relying on her fame to leave the Heavenly Academy. That's understandable. Have you also been bewitched by her? Yun Xiang's face darkened. Although he was usually afraid of the first elder, at this moment, he really could not hold it in. Yin Duan sneered, Yun Xiang, this is why you haven't broken through after 20 years. You're too narrow-minded, you won't be able to achieve anything great. Yun Xiang's face darkened as he tightened his grip on the teacup. All right. Don't let the other academies laugh at us. The president of Nantao Academy is still here. The president of Shengshuan, who was annoyed by the noise, furrowed his brows and rebuked. He shot a cold glance at Nantao's dean who was seated below Yiqing Luo's table, as he felt more and more infuriated, feeling that Yiqing Luo was intentionally going against Heavenly Academy. They knew that the Heavenly Academy and Nantao Academy were enemies. Every year, they competed for the title of the best academy. Yiqing Luo actually placed Nantao Academy under her seat. Whereas their Heavenly Academy, the Heavenly Academy where the devil class was located, was still sitting in this corner with no one interested. At this moment, a loud noise suddenly came from the surroundings. About 100 people, armed with weapons, barged into the Drifting Fragrance restaurant. The lively atmosphere came to an abrupt halt at this moment. Everyone's eyes were focused on the crowd that had suddenly appeared. Those people were all dressed in black. The weapon in his hand shone with a cold glint. His eyes were vicious, as if he was looking at a dead man. Yiqing Luo pushed aside the few directors who had rushed up to her to propose a toast to her as she squinted her eyes and swept a glance at those 100 over black-robed men as her slender brows rose slightly. She stood up, her posture languid, her long and narrow eyes calm without a hint of panic. Who are you people? Do you know what place this is? Yiqing Luo's chilly voice sounded leisurely in the quiet restaurant. Even if it was a cold interrogation. They all sounded like pearls and jades falling onto a plate, extremely pleasing to the ear. A group of people walked in through the open door. The leader of the group wore a navy blue robe with a belt inlaid with gold. At a glance, one could tell that it was a jade artifact of high quality. Wasn't that Prime Minister's son whom Yiqing Luo had met once outside the treasure-gathering pavilion? Behind Prime Minister's son were Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she squinted her eyes meaningfully. Prime Minister's son was actually still in South Continent. Didn't he bid for the sky-returning primordial serene grass with the price of 70 million gold coins? Chapter 1922. One had to know that even though he was the Prime Minister of the East Wave Continent. However, this was still the territory of the Southern Waves Continent. In his hand was a medicinal herb that was worth 70 million gold coins, enough to raise one's chi. It would definitely attract those desperados who would fight for it with no regard for their lives. Seeing that Prime Minister's son was still in the South Wave Continent, Qin Lai's heart skipped a beat. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but sigh. Was she too good at attracting hatred? In order to stop her, Prime Minister's son risked his life to stay on the South Tide Continent? Should she say that she was very honored? Yo, what kind of wind blew Prime Minister's son over? Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as she crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking at Prime Minister's son with a smile which didn't look like a smile. That tone made people feel inexplicably like it was a necessary opening line for a brothel keeper. Prime Minister's son's face was steely green as he looked coldly at Yiqing Luo. His gaze was like a knife, extremely sharp. Yiqing Luo. You despicable, shameless villain. Yiqing Luo wasn't angry at all as she gave a light smile, Prime Minister's son inexplicably rushed to Floating Fragrance restaurant and insulted me as a vile person at the banquet which young master she had arranged for me. Is this the behavior that Prime Minister's son, as an adult, should have? Following Yi-Ching Luo's words, everyone's gaze towards Prime Minister's son was instantly filled with disdain. Principal retracted the benevolence on his face as he slowly got up and walked behind Yi-Ching Luo as he looked at Prime Minister's son in a dignified manner. Prime Minister's son, this lord respects you as the East Continent's Prime Minister and doesn't wish to affect the relationship between the two continents. If you're in South Waves Continent and act in such an overbearing manner, bullying my students, then don't blame this lord for not taking into consideration the relationship between the two continents. Vice President had already walked behind Yi-Ching Luo. Like two guardian gods, guarding Yi-Ching Luo on both sides. Prime Minister's son's expression changed slightly. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He raised his hand and pointed at Yi-Ching Luo as he clenched his teeth and said, "You gave up on the sky returning primordial serene grass in the treasure pavilion's auction, but after I used 7 million gold coins to take away the sky returning primordial serene grass, you led a bunch of devil-class students to intercept me and snatch away the sky returning primordial serene grass." The more he spoke, the angrier he sounded. It was obvious that he was furious. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings went into an uproar. There were also quite a number of people who were present at the Jubao Pavilion. The situation that day was very clear. 70 million gold coins worth of heaven-returning origin serene grass was Prime Minister's son's lifeblood. Now that it had been snatched away, it was no wonder that Prime Minister's son would disregard everything and rush over to Floating Fragrance restaurant to question Yi-Ching Luo. However, did Yi-Ching Luo look like someone who would lead devil classes students to snatch Prime Minister's son? They were all students. Prime Minister's son's goal in coming to the South Tide continent this time was to retrieve the heavenly origin serene grass. He had brought at least 500 profound practitioners who were at the Earth Profound realm and above with him. No matter what, he couldn't convince anyone. Seeing the suspicious gazes of the people around him, Prime Minister's son became even more irritated. "I'm the Prime Minister of the East Water Continent. Why would I lie to you about this?" The sky-recovering primordial serene grass was indeed forcefully snatched away by Yi-Ching Luo leading the devil class. "I spent 70 million gold coins to bid for that herb. If Yi-Ching Luo doesn't hand over the medicinal herb today, everyone present here, don't blame me for unintentionally hurting you." Bang! Bang! One after another, sounds of slamming the table rang throughout the hall. Each of the Academy's directors had already stood up as they stared coldly at Prime Minister's son. "In that case, Prime Minister's son intends to make a move against us? Although I'm just a small director, but since Prime Minister's son insists on going against this Academy, I will absolutely not back off." Star. Chapter 1923. Various academies started to express their protection towards Yi-Ching Luo. As long as Prime Minister's son made a move, that was to become enemies with all the academies. These academies, if it was just one academy, Prime Minister's son wouldn't even bother about them. But 10 over academies added together. That was equivalent to offending the various continents. Most of the forces. What's more, there were 3 academies which were the East Continent's academies. At this moment, they stood on Yi-Ching Luo's side without any hesitation. The expression on Prime Minister's son's face turned extremely ugly and gloomy. And Yi-Ching Luo stood in the middle of everyone's protection, her lips curled into an extremely faint smile. In Prime Minister's son's eyes, that smile was ridiculing him. His face flushed red, and the taut string in his mind suddenly snapped. Just imagine, exhausting his family fortune to bid for the sky-returning primordial serene grass. It could give him a chance to break through to become a sky mystic overlord, and become the world's revered target. But unfortunately, just as his mind was filled with illusions of himself becoming a sky mystic overlord, the sky-returning primordial serene grass was forcefully snatched by a bunch of young lads. This didn't just destroy his dream of being a supreme being. It also gave him a tight slap on his face. If he let the devil class off, he, Prime Minister's son's awe-inspiring name, would become a joke in the pugilistic world. He had an illustrious reputation. How could he possibly endure it? He would become a joke. Yiqing Luo. Today, these directors will plead on your behalf. As long as you obediently hand over the sky returning primordial serene grass, I will not pursue the matter of you targeting me and snatching the sky returning primordial serene grass. He took a deep breath and suppressed the fury in his heart, making the final compromise. At this moment, there was no benefit for him to go head-to-head with a bunch of Academy's directors. As long as he obtained the sky returning primordial serene grass and advanced to the sky mystic overlord, he would not let any of these directors who stood on Yiqing Luo's side off. Prime Minister Sun thought. This was his last concession. Smart people would know what to choose at this moment. But, a faint laughter was heard. That fiery red-robed young lady's eyes were filled with smiles. Because of her smile, a pair of long and narrow eyes curved even more devilishly. The people around her couldn't help but sink into her smile. What are you laughing at? Prime Minister Sun shouted in a deep voice. How could she still smile at such a time? Did she really think that she could do whatever she wanted just because she had the protection of the deans of the various academies? I'm laughing at how old Prime Minister Sun is. He's not important anymore. He doesn't even have a brain anymore. Yiqing Luo covered her mouth as she cast a contemptuous sidelong glance at Prime Minister Sun. Your sky recovering vitality serene grass is missing and you're certain that devil class took it away. Then, if I were to say that my god relic is missing, does that mean that you, Prime Minister Sun, snatched it away? As she said that, she sneered, it's just a mouth, you can say whatever you want. You don't want to admit it? Prime Minister Sun roared angrily. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Why should I admit to something that I haven't done? All right. Good. Prime Minister Sun's face flushed red with anger. This is the person you're protecting. If I can't get the sky recovering vitality serene grass today, then don't blame me for using brute force. Those directors looked at Prime Minister Sun's infuriated face and their hearts couldn't help but started to beat like drums. How important was the sky recovering vitality serene grass to Prime Minister Sunday? They had naturally heard of it before. If it wasn't for the sky recovering vitality serene grass, Prime Minister Sun would have returned to the East Continent long ago to work hard to break through to the sky profound realm. Chapter 1924. Looking at Prime Minister Sun's hysterical look. He was afraid that his returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was really lost. Even the various academies' deans joined hands and stood on Yiqing Luo's side. Prime Minister Sun was at a loss. Apparently, he had confirmed that his returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was snatched by the devil class. If it was really the devil class who had snatched the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass. Even if they really admired Yiqing Luo's ability. However, they would not blindly support this kind of act of helping the evildoer to do evil. The 10 over dean's expressions loosened. Yun Duan, who was sitting in the corner, suddenly stood up and broke the deadlock. Prime Minister Sun, student Yiqing Luo's words have indeed made you unhappy, but there is one thing that she is right about. Dozens of pairs of eyes looked towards Yun Duan. Heavenly Dean and Yun Xiang, who were sitting by the side, immediately restrained their expressions of watching a good show. Following that, they heard Yun Duan continued, everything depends on evidence, it's just one mouth. If there's no evidence to prove that student Yiqing Luo did it, how do you expect us to believe? If you insist that it's our Heavenly Academy's students who snatched your returning Heaven Yuan serene grass, then please show us the evidence. Yun Duan's words received the approval of the other Academy's deans. Prime Minister Sun stared angrily at Yun Duan. I swear on my position as Prime Minister. If this returning Heaven Yuan serene grass is not snatched by devil class students, I will never be able to break through to the sky profound realm. And voluntarily resign from the position of Prime Minister. The entire floating fragrance restaurant was in silence. As everyone knew, Prime Minister Sun had a deep obsession to break through to the sky profound realm. Today Prime Minister Sun actually used the sky profound realm and the position of Prime Minister as a bet. Apparently, he was 100% sure that the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was snatched by devil class. Looking at Prime Minister Sun's infuriated look, Yi Qing Luo's heart started to have a suspicion. She narrowed her eyes as her gaze swept across the devil class students who were seated at the various tables. She actually discovered that a trace of guilt flashed past those students' eyes. Guilty? Yi Qing Luo frowned. Could it be? She touched the World Mercenary Group's badge as she spoke in her heart. Speak, what's going on? The devil class students looked at each other in dismay. No one dared to bring up this matter. After a short while, it was Long Yunzhan who explained. It turned out that when Yi Qing Luo went missing, she had met with the 4 young ladies from the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families who were looking for trouble at the treasure-gathering area. Following that, she got into a conflict with Prime Minister Sunday. After that, Yi Qing Luo and Prime Minister Sun argued for such a long time in treasure-gathering chambers. With regards to Yi Qing Luo's disappearance, Devil Class's students had heard about Prime Minister Sun and Yi Qing Luo's matter and were desperate enough to try any doctor, directly insisting that Prime Minister Sun had kidnapped Yan Xiaoyi in order to take revenge on Yi Qing Luo, intentionally luring Yi Qing Luo to walk right into the trap. Now that he thought about it, it was incredible. Devil Class students blocked Prime Minister Sun's way back to East Continent, forcing Prime Minister Sun to release them. How would Prime Minister Sun know where Yi Qing Luo was? Recalling Yi Qing Luo's repeated insults towards him, his attitude naturally wasn't very good. Hence, the Devil Class students evolved into forcefully snatching back the Tianyuan serene grass, forcing Prime Minister Sun to release them. Later on, when Yi Qing Luo returned, Yan Xiaoyi fainted from being poisoned, and immediately following that, they came to Floating Fragrance Restaurant to gorge themselves. This kind of matter, which was of no importance to them, was thrown to the back of their minds. After listening to these explanations, Yi Qing Luo's forehead was filled with black lines. No wonder Prime Minister Sun dared to use the 2 matters which he cared about the most, as bargaining chips for his poison curse. Her bunch of little fellows had really taken action to snatch back the Tianyuan serene grass. Their guts were really huge. Star. Chapter 1925. Whatever the Devil Class did, was also considered as what she, Yi Qing Luo, had done. This time round, she really had to let down the various principals' trust. Yi Qing Luo silently clicked her tongue as she thought of countermeasures in her heart. The students looked at Yi Qing Luo's lowered head, and the expression on her face was faintly grave. Some students nervously transmitted their voices through the World Group badge. Why don't I send the sky recovering primordial serene grass back now? Send it back? Why do you want to send it back? Yi Qing Luo raised her head abruptly as she stared at that student. This is the sky recovering primordial serene grass, which is worth 70 million. The students. You've done beautifully this time. You're a little like me. Yi Qing Luo didn't forget to praise herself narcissistically as she rubbed her chin as she gave an evil smile. Things which are already in our hands, how can we return it? The students' lips twitched. There was a reason why they had become so intrepid now. With such a perverted leader. It would be strange if they weren't perverted. But this feeling was so damn satisfying. That's right, that's right. This was the sky recovering primordial serene grass, which was worth 70 million. They had spent quite a lot of effort before they managed to snatch it from Prime Minister Sun. If they were to return it, they would be so aggrieved. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the students were feeling more and more pleased with themselves. Especially when they saw Prime Minister Sun's face flushed red, they felt even more delighted. Who asked this fellow to show their boss that face in public? Who asked this fellow to take advantage of his seniority and bully others? Who asked this fellow to compete with their boss for the medicinal herb? If they didn't squeeze this fellow dry, then they weren't Devil Class. After finding out that everything was done by her bunch of brothers, Yi Qing Luo's arrogance grew stronger and stronger. So what if it was done by her brothers? Her brother had overturned the skies of the South Billow continent. She could still cover for them. Even if she couldn't, there was still Dmo Xian. She was just that willful. She was just that protective. Whoever had any objections, she would exterminate them. Since Prime Minister's son made it sound so serious, then I can swear that if I snatched your sky-recovering primordial serene grass, I will become a waste once again. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she crossed her arms and smiled coldly at Prime Minister Sunday. Apparently, she was provoking Prime Minister Sunday. She was indeed provoking Prime Minister Sunday. When the devil class students heard this oath, they could not help but laugh. Boss was really too evil. Boss was just too evil. These 2 days, she went somewhere. It was true that she had never participated in snatching back the Tianyuan serene grass. However, Prime Minister's son clearly didn't understand this word game. Ye masters ye. He was so angry that the top of his head was smoking and his whole body was trembling. Behind her, Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li family's young ladies couldn't bear it any longer as they scolded loudly, Yi Qing Luo. Use Li. Tian. If my uncle wasn't sure that it was you who took back the heavenly primordial serene grass, why would he ask you to take it back in front of so many uncles? Miss Zhao added, I'm sure everyone here knows what the heaven-restoring serene grass means to Prime Minister's son. If Qing Yang said Luo Yang, Minister Qing Luo Chen. Tian Qing said Qing, Luo's son, Yi Qing Prime Minister Yang Luo did, how, Minister, would not, Qing Chen, Yi Qing Luo. Prime Minister's son has given you uncle's face. As long as you hand over the sky-recovering primordial serene grass, we will let bygones be bygones. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Qian family's young miss reprimanded her sharply. Chapter 1926. However, Yi Qing Luo maintained a light smile from start to end. She narrowed her eyes and looked into their eyes. It was like watching a monkey show. That kind of contempt, insufferably arrogant. Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li, 4 young ladies' hearts were boiling with anger, and immediately 4 voices were heard as they directly attacked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. He made his move as soon as he said he would. Moreover, they were 4 young girls. Those directors wanted to protect Yi Qing Luo. It was not convenient for him to fight with the young girl. Otherwise, if word of this got out, they were afraid that it would turn into them bullying the younger generation. That was exactly what Prime Minister's son had in mind. The young ladies of the 4 families made their moves. Those self-proclaimed aloof directors didn't dare to make the first move to protect Yi Qing Luo. Hey! How dare you all behave atrociously in front of Sister Qing Luo? She didn't care so much. The minute she saw someone attacking her sister Qing Luo, she immediately struck out a burst of profound energy, blocking in front of Yi Qing Luo. Bang! The loud sound of someone slamming the table could be heard. The wooden table shattered into pieces. Shi Ruoyu stood up angrily. Despite his young age, his aura was terrifying. Prime Minister's son, just how dissatisfied are you with my Shi clan and the Gathering Treasures Pavilion? Prime Minister's son's eyes were full of anger. He was ready to risk everything and wasn't afraid of Shi Ruoyu's threat. I have no intention of becoming enemies with young Master Shi. I just want to take back the sky-recovering serene grass that I bid for with 70 million gold coins. Shi Ruoyu's expression sunk slightly. Since Qing Luo said that she didn't take the sky-returning vitality serene grass, then she didn't. This young master believes in Qing Luo's character. Young Master Shi, are you saying that I lied to all of you in front of all of you? Prime Minister's son glared at him. The old man and the young man refused to give in to each other. The 4 ladies of the Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li families were stopped by Shi Ruoshi. He immediately changed the direction of his attack and once again attacked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Shi Ruoshi's bright eyes suddenly flashed with a biting cold light. She raised her hand and pulled out the soft sword hidden in her sleeve, ready to attack. Little Shi. Yi Qing Luo suddenly spoke out and stopped Shi Ruoshi's actions. They're just 4 trash that can't even be seen in public. If I let you do it, wouldn't it be dirtying my little she's slender and beautiful hands? She was stunned, and upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's praise, her face immediately turned red. Sister Qing Luo only knows how to tease me. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly as she went forward and pressed Shi's shoulder, pulling her behind her. After that, her charming eyes raised slightly to form a long and narrow arc that was extremely bewitching. You four dregs, the lesson at the treasure-gathering pavilion isn't enough for you to remember, right? Then, now, I will make you remember this day. When her words fell, Yi Qing Luo's figure had already appeared beside the four young ladies of the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families. Everyone only saw a red afterimage flash. Soon after, miserable shrieks rose and fell one after another. In just a moment, the four young ladies were like a flower bud, blooming in all directions. Dong, dong, dong. Several heavy objects fell to the ground. The four young ladies fell heavily to the ground. Each posture was more twisted than the last. Miss! Miss! At the entrance, two middle-aged men suddenly rushed in and towards the four young ladies who were sent flying on the ground. They opened their throats and howled. One of the middle-aged men raised his head and stared angrily at Yi Qing Luo. You vicious woman! How dare you hurt our miss? Chapter 1927. Yi Qing Luo. This act was even more fake than her. Did he need to be so fake? It was obvious that the two crying girls were Prime Minister Sun's accomplices. As expected, the next moment, Prime Minister Sun's malicious eyes had already looked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo. I have already tried to reason with you nicely, but since you're so stubborn and even hurt the three young ladies of the Zhao, Qian and Li family, if I don't seek justice for them, then I will be ashamed to call them uncle. He finally found a legitimate excuse. Prime Minister Sun raised his long sword as he closed in on Yi Qing Luo's direction. That old face was filled with a sinister expression. Apparently, he wanted to take advantage of the situation to take Yi Qing Luo's life. He was determined to take back the sky primordial serene grass. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she squinted her eyes, using her own eyes to analyze Prime Minister Sun's attack in her mind. Her body instinctively started to display her footwork. Just at the moment when Prime Minister Sun approached, he only heard two bam-bam sounds. Immediately following that, Prime Minister Sun's body was flung out like a spinning top. His slightly plump body spun unsteadily on the spot a few times. Following that, his feet became unsteady as he tripped and fell onto the ground. That sound of him falling onto the ground was extremely ear-piercing. Prime Minister Sun laid on the ground in disbelief. What made him flushed red to his ears and extremely ashamed was his face was burning with intense pain. On his old face, there was a clear imprint of 5 fingers. Apparently, the 2 slaps earlier had landed on Prime Minister Sun's face. He was actually slapped twice by Yi Qing Luo unknowingly. Moreover, he didn't even notice it. He was slapped onto the ground by Yi Qing Luo's powerful strength. How could this be possible? How could this be possible? How could Yi Qing Luo possibly make a move on him in such a short period of time without him noticing? Yi Qing Luo was merely a 15-year-old young lady. No matter how the outside world had described it to be miraculous, that couldn't change the fact that Yi Qing Luo was merely a 15-year-old young lady. Even if Yi Qing Luo was a genius among geniuses, at most, she was in the Earth Profound grade. He was an Earth Profound 8th grade Profound practitioner. How could that bitch be stronger than him? It was impossible for him to lose to a 15-year-old girl. Prime Minister Sun's eyes were masked with an eerily cold intent, and immediately after, he faced Yi Qing Luo's direction, as he exploded wave after wave of surging profound energy. Waves of qi surged into the sky, stacking layer upon layer as they surged up. It was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was splitting apart, as if it was going to devour everything in the world. In the Piao Xiang restaurant, there were not only guests like the dean, There were also quite a number of students who followed their own director and worshipped Yiqing Luo. When this imposing manner engulfed the Piao Xiang restaurant, the entire floating fragrance restaurant resounded with an earth-shattering sound. One could faintly hear the surrounding floors collapsing and teetering on the verge of collapse. There were also some low-level students who were directly forced to spit out a mouthful of blood under this powerful profound rank. You are the prime minister of a nation, yet you are so rude and overbearing. You don't care about the safety of the students of the various academies and forcibly release your profound energy. You are not fit to be the prime minister of the East Water Continent. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she faced Prime Minister Sun's imposing manner, which could swallow the mountains and rivers, totally not showing any signs of fear. Chapter 1928. Yiqing Luo, hand over the returning heaven primordial serene grass. His strong obsession made Prime Minister Sun unwilling to give up, even though he knew that Yiqing Luo's counterattack was extremely dangerous. His sinister eyes were filled with fanatical hatred. His aura, at this instance, surged up another grade. Faintly, it had already reached the momentum of Earth Profound 9th grade. He felt that he was about to break through the barrier. Prime Minister Sun's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with excitement and fanaticism. He excitedly raised the long blade in his hand as he crazily slashed towards Yiqing Luo. The glower flame fan on Yiqing Luo's fingertips shone with a demonic red glow. Just as Prime Minister Sun was coming towards her, Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved. The glower flame fan suddenly opened up. An extremely powerful beam of profound energy poured down from the sky. The beautiful glower flame fan was like a blooming fireball. On Yiqing Luo's fingertips, it was like an excited fire elf, swimming in the flames. It gave off a dazzling brilliance. The fan's shadow flickered as the profound glow exploded. Prime Minister Sun sneered, totally disregarding Yiqing Luo. He only treated this as an opportunity for him to advance to Earth Profound 9th grade. As long as he advanced successfully, then he would get the returning heaven primordial serene grass back. He would be a sky mystic overlord cultivator. He would be able to look down on everything. Look down on everything. Thinking in this way, Prime Minister Sun became more and more arrogant. Facing against Yiqing Luo's profound glow, he directly collided against it. Bam! A loud sound was heard. An intense profound energy exploded at this instance. Ah! A blood-curdling scream was heard. A figure was seen flying out of the formation. The figure landed heavily on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Prime Minister Sun's face was filled with blood and malevolence. He pressed his chest as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The surrounding deans saw it very clearly. The gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with disbelief. If it was before, they had heard about Yiqing Luo's various legends, or even the matter of Yiqing Luo sealing the King of Darkness's consciousness, the various academies' directors didn't believe it completely. They believed that it was Yiqing Luo who saved their students. But they didn't believe that it was Yiqing Luo who had saved their students on her own. But at this moment, he had personally witnessed Yiqing Luo going head-on against an Earth Profound 8th grade high-leveled cultivator. Prime Minister Sunday Yiqing Luo was actually unscathed. Furthermore, his expression was one of contentment, as if he hadn't expended any energy at all. On the contrary, Prime Minister Sun was suppressed by Yiqing Luo's profound energy till he had no way to resist at all. And some of the higher-level profound practitioners of the Earth Profound realm were even more clear about what had happened just now. Prime Minister Sun's dark force suddenly burst out. They could feel it clearly. It was obvious that Prime Minister Sun had already advanced to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound realm under the stimulation just now. This meant that Prime Minister Sun already had the strength of a 9th grade Earth Xian. But even so, he was still suppressed by Yiqing Luo till he had no way to retaliate. Earlier, Yiqing Luo had not done any strange actions at all. It was just a simple wave of the glowing flame fan. Then, Prime Minister Sun was sent flying backward. The raging profound energy was still spreading in the air. Prime Minister Sun's flame, which was surging, suddenly stopped at the instance when he was struck by Yi Qing Luo's profound energy. To the cultivators, they were the clearest on what this indicated. Prime Minister Sun's chance to advance to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound Realm had already been destroyed. What's more, Prime Minister Sun's profound jade heart had also suffered a backlash because of this accident. Which meant the current Prime Minister Sun had not only lost the chance to advance to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound Realm, and his profound grade had been lowered. Star. Before he leaned over, Prime Minister Sun had already shrunk back in terror. His eyes widened as he gritted his teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo fiercely. What are you trying to do? This minister is the Prime Minister of the East Water Continent. If you dare to touch this minister again, the East Water Continent will never let you off. Guards. Why are you guys still standing there? Hurry up and capture this slut who tried to assassinate me. Prime Minister Sun roared as he looked at the group of black-clothed men surrounding the fragrance restaurant. Those 100 black-clothed men were about to take action after they received the order. Shi Ruo Yu and the rest of Devil Class's youngsters had already dashed in front of those black-clothed men. This young master wants to see who dares to make a move. Prime Minister Sun was so infuriated that he clenched his teeth. Do you really want to go against my East Water Continent? What's the Prime Minister of East Water Continent? Yi Qing Luo's chilly sneer was heard leisurely. Prime Minister Sun must have forgotten. I am the West Water Continent's Three Springs sect. Young Master. Sect. Lord. Star. Chapter 1930. As everyone knew, on the 4 continents, the most respected people were not the imperial family, but the 4 great sects of the 4 continents. It was rumored that they were the guardians of the Nirvana realm, guarding the tomb of the divine emperor of the god race. Even now, the Three Springs sect was not what it used to be because of the current sect master. But at the very least, he still carried the title of one of the 4 great sections. If it was a matter of status. No matter what, it was Yi Qing Luo who was the West Continent's Three Springs sect's young matriarch who was more respectable. Even though the former Yi Qing Luo had the title of young matriarch, but had no real power. But the current Yi Qing Luo was obviously the future patriarch of Three Springs sect. Prime Minister Sun actually dared to use his prime minister position to oppress Yi Qing Luo? This was simply a slap in the face. Everyone looked at Prime Minister Sun with ridicule in their eyes. He seemed to be mocking Prime Minister Sun for overestimating himself. Prime Minister Sun was forced to the ground. His cheeks had already turned red and swollen from Yi Qing Luo's palms. His old face looked extremely dejected. His eyes were wide open, making his face look even more hideous and terrifying. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose frivolously as she met Prime Minister Sun's gaze without any fear as she gave a meaningful smile. Now, what else can Prime Minister Sun rely on to negotiate terms with me? Although Yi Qing Luo wasn't considered as a righteous person. However, he was definitely not a kind-hearted person. If it wasn't for Prime Minister Sun using his title as the Prime Minister to give Miss Zhao, Miss Qian, Miss Sun and Miss Li the right to flaunt their prowess and provoke her, she wouldn't have anything to do with Prime Minister Sunday. Or rather, after the Devil Class students had snatched the returning Sky Yuan serene grass. The method he adopted was to use the soft approach first and then the hard approach. Perhaps she would be amenable to coaxing but not coercion. However, Prime Minister Sun had to use this method to solve the problem. He couldn't blame her for using the same violent method to strike back at his decision. Sun Qing seemed to have thought of something when he heard one of Yi Qing Luo's words, as his eyes suddenly filled with ridicule and ridicule. He stared at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes filled with sympathy, as though he was ridiculing her. That gaze made Yi Qing Luo sick of it. She furrowed her brows in displeasure. Just as he raised his hand, he saw Prime Minister Sun grinning mockingly. Three Springs sect. Ha ha ha. You still want to rely on the Three Springs sect? The current Three Springs sect had already changed. The new sect master has already stripped you of your position as the young sect master, and He smiled coldly. When he saw the astonishment in Yiqing Luo's eyes, he laughed even more savagely. That's right. Not only have you lost your identity as the Three Springs sect's young sect leader, but the new sect leader has also ordered the arrest of a traitor like you. Ha ha ha. You didn't expect it, right? Ha ha ha, you didn't expect it, right? As he laughed, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. However, he was still laughing maniacally. Prime Minister Sun's words indeed made Yiqing Luo stunned. Her eyes flickered and a trace of coldness appeared in her charming eyes. Tell me clearly, what happened to the Three Springs sect? What new sect master? Traitor of the Three Springs sect. She had only left the Western continent for less than a month. Something big happened in the Western continent? Don't believe what I said? Prime Minister Sun could tell how much importance Yiqing Luo placed on the Three Springs sect. Looking at Yiqing Luo's pale face, he laughed so hard that he couldn't stop coughing, but he still couldn't stop laughing. The news from the Western continent has gradually spread to the various continents. There are so many deans from various academies present, so I'm sure they have their own channels to find out about this news. Star. Chapter 1931. The deans' faces darkened at once. Their expressions all fell into Yiqing Luo's eyes. Clenching her slender fingers, she narrowed her eyes and looked coldly at the president of Nantao Academy. Is what Prime Minister Sun said true? Prime Minister Sun did not speak in private. The people around them heard it clearly. When Yiqing Luo asked this question, the principals immediately shifted their gazes away, not daring to look at Qin Nan. Dean Nantao, who had been called out, could only brace himself and reply, in the past 2 days, there have been rumors that you were kidnapped. Our attention has been focused on searching for you. We have yet to verify the news from the West continent. They had indeed learned of the changes that had occurred in the West Wave continent through their own channels. However, he did not think too much about it. He wanted to wait until the matter of the South Wave continent was resolved before investigating the West Wave continent. Unexpectedly, Prime Minister Sun already knew what had happened in the West continent. Clearly, this matter had something to do with the Three Springs sect. Qing Luo, I'll get someone to find out more about Three Springs sect. Shi Ruoyu had already started to make arrangements. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her gaze was extremely cold. She suddenly bent down and grabbed Prime Minister Sun's collar. What happened to the Three Springs sect? Who is the new sect leader? Prime Minister Sun was laughing so hard that he was bleeding. His malevolent face stared maliciously at Yiqing Luo as he laughed coldly, ha ha ha. This minister will not say anything. Little slut, you've lost the position of young sect master that you're so proud of. Now you're just a traitor that everyone wants to beat up, ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists. Little bitch, hand over the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass. I will tell you about the Three Springs sect, or else, the Three Springs sect will soon come to capture you, the traitor. As though he saw the forbearance in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Prime Minister Sun's smile grew wider. Prime Minister Sun's complacent expression caused her to feel even more irritated in her heart. In South Tide Continent's territory, Yiqing Luo could not kill Prime Minister Sunday, otherwise, he would be bringing shame to the South Waves continent. But, she could boldly make Prime Minister Sun's life a living hell. Just as Prime Minister Sun was laughing loudly, something cold slid down his throat. Prime Minister Sun immediately slapped his mouth helplessly, little bitch. What did you give me to eat? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into an eerie sneer as she didn't even bother to take a look at Premier Sun as she lifted her leg and dashed out of the restaurant. Prime Minister Sun was about to get up and grab Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his body. It was as if thousands of silver needles had pierced into his bones. Sometimes itching, sometimes stinging. In particular, the bursts of piercing pain were all aimed at the most painful parts of the bones. Each burst of tingling feeling down. It was as if his bones were broken and his limbs were torn apart. Then, they were reconnected and torn again, He was in so much pain that his entire face was contorted. He fell to the ground and screamed. The deans nearby patted their chests and let out relieved sighs. Fortunately, they did not offend that little devil. The torture methods of this little ancestor were truly horrifying. He didn't know what kind of strange things she was carrying on her. Shiruashi and her siblings and those devil-class students had no mood to bother about Prime Minister Sunday. Chapter 1932. No one had noticed that somewhere on the second floor, a red figure had stopped in his tracks, standing by the side of the railing. The young man's face was as cold as ice, without any emotions. A blazing red robe matched him perfectly, without any sense of incongruity. His 5 fingers were clenched tightly, clasping the top of the railing. A pair of cold black eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo's departing figure without blinking. Earlier, it was just a short moment. He couldn't help but rush to the first floor, to teach Prime Minister Sun a lesson. And to tell her all the news about Three Springs sect. But, eventually he stopped in his tracks. He was already very clear in his heart. That young lady wasn't the young lady he was looking for. He shouldn't place his vision on her. But not knowing why, even though he knew that she wasn't her. In his heart, in his mind, it was all about her figure. 5 fingers tightened again. The railing broke with a creak. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast, as she rushed back to room 1. In the eyes of outsiders, perhaps they thought that Yiqing Luo had a deep obsession with the position of the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. But, what Yiqing Luo was worried about was not the position of the young matriarch. Attending the South Continent's exchange meet. Yi Fengyu didn't participate, but stayed in the Yi family. If there was a change in Three Springs sect, Yi Fengyu would definitely be in danger. No matter who the new matriarch was, he would not let him off. There was also her loyal servant, Ziling, who was thinking of bringing her out of the Three Springs sect. Rather than wasting time here to interrogate Prime Minister Sunday, why not directly return to room 1, to settle the matters of those students? She had to rush back to the West Continent immediately, to see what changes had happened to Three Springs sect. As the situation was urgent, Yiqing Luo didn't stay for too long. She told Xiao Jin about the matter in a concise and comprehensive manner. She asked Xiao Jin to stay in the South Continent, until Yan Xiaoyi recovered, before returning to the West Continent with the Devil-class students and Heavenly Academy. As for her, Dmo Xian, Long Yunzhan and the rest, they rode on Shiju and Little Nine. By the time the vice principal and a bunch of students reached room 1, Yiqing Luo and the rest had already left. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's thoughts had already flown to the West Continent. Dmo Xian hugged her petite body tightly as he comforted her in a low voice. He had already spread the news. Once they arrived at the Western Continent, someone would inform them of the recent happenings in the Western Continent. Yiqing Luo also knew that the only thing she could do now was to calm her own emotions and wait till they reached the West Continent before she could fully devote herself into the battle. However, when he thought of his silly brother and Ziling, whose leg had not fully recovered, he felt a little guilty. She couldn't help but worry. Shiju and Little Nine were extremely fast. But no matter how fast they were, it would take at least 2 days to travel from the South Wave Continent to the West Wave Continent. Moreover, Shiju and Little Nine still needed to rest. Therefore, by the time they arrived at the West Continent, it was already 3 days later. Before they even got close to the West Continent, Yiqing Luo already sensed the strange atmosphere in the West Continent. It was extremely strange and abnormal. Yiqing Luo and the rest got down from Shiju and Little Nine's body in advance and changed their appearances, making some changes. Just as he was about to approach Three Springs City to look for the person arranged by Dmo Xian, suddenly, a tall man stumbled into the group of them. Yiqing Luo's sharp body tried to evade him. That person's large palm had already landed on her shoulder. A low hoarse voice was heard by the side of her ear, "It's me, follow me." Star. Chapter 1933. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she stopped in her tracks. After that, a group of people walked out of the queue and headed towards the direction of the city gate. On top of the city gate's wall, a gorgeous lady dressed in gorgeous clothes was escorted by the guards as she slowly walked over. The lady stood on top of the city gate as her sinister beautiful eyes swept across the bustling crowd below. She narrowed her eyes as her voice was filled with arrogance. Haven't found the person yet? The guard's face was filled with flattery. Eldest young Miss Yi, don't worry. As long as the Yi family's traitor enters the city, we will do our best to capture the traitor. The lady scoffed lightly as a chilly glint flashed past her eyes. You bunch of trash. You can't even do such a small thing. How are you going to capture the Yi family's traitor? I really don't know what's the use of Three Springs City keeping you bunch of trash. The faces of the guards behind her sunk instantly. But no matter how unhappy they were, they still had to maintain a smile on their faces as they carefully responded to the lady. Suddenly, the lady's expression changed abruptly. Her eyes were fixed on a spot in the crowd in front of her. Following that, the lady leaped up and flipped down from the wall. Eldest young Miss Yi. Eldest young Miss Yi. The guards were in a mess. The commoners or merchants who were entering the city were all shocked when a gorgeous lady suddenly leaped down from the sky. However, that lady pushed the crowd aside as her gaze frantically searched through the crowd. Instantly, the outside of the city gate was in a mess. A few hundred meters away from Three Springs City, in a more secluded abandoned temple. Yiqing Luo had yet to open her mouth when she saw the man in front of her walking straight to the back of the Buddha statue. Only to hear a creak sound of stone rubbing against each other. Behind the Buddha statue, a secret entrance appeared. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she sized up the man with interest. Z Fan, you also made a secret entrance behind the ruined temple. Don't tell me you've long guessed that one day, our Yi family would need to rely on this secret entrance of yours to escape. She laughed out teasingly as she bent over and entered the secret entrance. The man shook his head as he laughed lightly. I don't have the ability to predict the future. This secret entrance was made by Z Fei, that lad, out of boredom. Although the tunnel was roughly dug, it was enough for a tall man to walk. Yiqing Luo and the rest walked along the secret path for a short while before they saw the lights in front. Following that, a figure walked out. Big brother, you're finally back. How is it, have you found Qing Luo? The last word had yet to leave his mouth. When that person saw Yiqing Luo, his eyes suddenly lit up. Qing Luo. Qing Luo. You're finally back. Looking at the young face in front of her, revealing a joyful expression, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. What happened to Three Springs sect? Why are the two brothers of the Mu family hiding in this secret passage? He was right. The one who led Yiqing Luo and her entourage to the secret passage was Mu family's eldest young master, Mu Zifan. And this person who was currently looking at her with wild joy, was precisely the Mu family's second young master, Mu Zifei. She didn't expect to be recognized by Mu Zifan as soon as she returned to the western continent. Could it be that her disguise had deteriorated? It's sister. Is sister back? Suddenly, a trembling voice sounded from the secret chamber. Following that, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was heard. A woman's shocked voice was heard. Young master, don't move. Young master. Yiqing Luo's expression changed as she followed the voice and rushed into the chamber. Beside the stone bed at the side of the secret room, a delicate-looking youth fell to the ground in a sorry state. The young man was wrapped in bandages and the bandages were full of mottled blood stains. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.